What's up, everybody? I'm Najee Adams.
And I'm Hunter Jacobs.
And you're listening to the Hoopball Nets podcast. So, this is our debut episode. Well, we've recorded multiple other episodes, but this is the first one that you guys will be hearing. If you want to go hear the ones that we recorded before, they're on our feed, so you could easily go listen to them. We encourage you to go listen to them. But as of right now, you guys probably don't know who we are at all, so we're just going to introduce ourselves. I'm Najee Adams. I'm 20 years old, a junior at St. John's University in New York City. Lived in New York all my life. My favorite athlete of all time is Kobe Bryant. Huge Laker fan, but I'm also extremely interested in the Nets since I live here and they're much more interesting than the Knicks. Hunter?
So I'm Hunter. I also attend St. John's. I'm a junior sports management major, and I've also lived in New York my whole life. I'm a Celtics fan, and my favorite athlete of all time is actually Paul Pierce, as you'd expect as a Celtics fan.
Oh, I forgot to say, my major's journalism.
We're neither of us are Nets fans, but we're both interested in the Nets. But I think that will make it better for this podcast because we'll be unbiased. We'll never side towards the Nets more than another team. It's just looking at it from the outside in.
And what I think is going to set this podcast apart is that we've never done anything like this before. Like, we're new to this whole podcast thing. Usually with podcasts, it's like hosts from other podcasts that are starting a new one. No, this is our first podcast, so you guys are going to get the chance to see us grow and develop as people and podcasters and sports fanatics. So just stay with us, grow with us, and eventually we're hoping to make this thing big. So before we get into the actual Nets, we just want to tell you guys where you can find us. Our newly formed Twitter is at HoopballNets. No spaces or anything like that, just at HoopballNets. If you want to find us individually on Twitter, it's my Twitter handle is at Najee Adams _. If you don't know how to spell Najee, it's Najee Adams _.
And my Twitter handle is at Hunter _JKR.
So yeah, let's get into the actual Brooklyn Nets talk. So the way this podcast is going to work usually is that we're going to cover every game individually, podcast by podcast. But this podcast is going to be we're going to cram two games into this one: the Cavs game and the Pelicans game. So starting with the Cavs, they blew the Cavs out in Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's season debut. They beat them 102-86 on the road. It was the first team the Nets managed to hold under 100 points the entire season, including the preseason. They outscored them 38-17 in the third quarter, which is good to see after them being tied going into the half. And also it's good to see because the Nets had been having trouble coming out of the half with intensity, which we talked about in one of the podcasts you guys are probably not going to hear. But for the first time all season, the Nets won the turnover battle 15-14. However, they got severely out-rebounded 53-44 and gave up 16 offensive rebounds alone, which doubled their own total because they only got 8.
So, turnovers, offensive rebounding, and defense are their three main problems. They won the turnovers, although it was by one. They got horribly out-rebounded.
And it was by one to the Cavs.
And the defense, I'll chalk it up to the Cavs being worse more than the Nets being good at defense.
Is it the Cavs being good? Is it the Cavs being bad or the Nets playing good defense?
The Cavs are a terrible team that may not win 15 games this season.
Because when you look at it, the only players on the Cavs that hit a three were George Hill and Kevin Love.
And that's going to be consistent. Rodney Hood should be able to shoot, and he's not. He is not taking threes.
And Kevin Love only took 9 shots, and their team high in points was a 3-way tie between Kevin Love, Colin Sexton, and Jordan Clarkson, all having 14. Kevin Love only took 9 shots, and Jordan Clarkson took more shots than Kevin Love. So that's why I feel like it's a testament to how horrible the Cavs are, because if you have Jordan Clarkson taking more shots than Kevin Love, that's just why. There's no reason as to why that should be happening. Had the Nets lost the game, they probably would have lost because of offensive rebounding. But they ended up shooting 43.7% from the field, 42.1% from the three-point line, and 80% from the three-point line and 80% from the free throw line. They made 12 of their 15 attempts, which is good to see because the Nets are a struggling free throw team, to say the least. They played their best defense of the season, holding the Cavs to 38.2% shooting from the field, 16.7% shooting from three, and 93.8% from the line. They only made 3 of their 18 three-point attempts, and 2 of them were by Kevin Love, and 1 of them was by George Hill, so that's about that. Moving on to the box score, Joe Harris had 16 points. Joe Harris is actually pretty surprising because when they re-signed him, I thought he'd just come off the bench for 24 minutes, crank up a couple of threes, but nah, he's getting rebounds, assists, a steal. He hit 4 threes in this game. His rebounds and assists are career highs right now, so it's good to see him adding more than just threes. Next on to Jared Allen. He had 10 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and a block. Nothing crazy. Not his best game of the season, not his worst. Ed Davis kind of really broke out for the Nets here. He got 10 points and 10 rebounds. He doubled, and 6 of the 10 rebounds he got were offensive.
The primary reason the Nets got Ed Davis was for rebounding. So for him to put up a double-double, get offensive rebounds in a win is what they envisioned going forward. And back to Joe Harris, people are confused whether he should start over DeMare Carroll when he comes back. What do you think?
I think Joe Harris should start because if it was like last year and he was only adding in a couple, like 2 rebounds a game and assists, nothing crazy, just threes, period threes, then I'd say DeMare Carroll. But so far, why take Joe Harris off the lineup when he's been playing so well? Like, reward him for playing well in DeMare Carroll's absence and keep him in the lineup. That's how I feel, though.
There is a way to keep Joe Harris in the lineup and DeMare Carroll.
We're talking about benching. Don't tell me. You'd have to bench Rondé Hollis Jefferson.
No.
D'Lo?
Yes. Right now,
I knew you were going to say that.
I would start Karis LeVert at point guard, Joe Harris at the 2, DeMare Carroll at the 3, and that is their best lineup.
And then bring D'Lo off the bench?
Yes.
I don't think that they, as a team, that they can bring themselves to do that.
I mean, they have so much faith in D'Lo, but
I think it's not well deserved.
We will get to later in this episode why D'Angelo Russell has sins that he has to make up for.
Oh my God. So if you guys don't know, a little backstory on me and Hunter. I'm a huge D'Angelo Russell fan, but I'm gonna try not to let my love for him seep into the podcast. Hunter, on the other hand, I wouldn't say he doesn't like D'Lo, but he's not a stan or anything.
I'm very
like that.
Judgmental of him.
Yeah, he's more
I'm
judgmental.
quick to pull the leash and have him and be benched because my biggest fan, like Karis LeVert, is the player that I have the biggest faith on in this team. Him and Jared Allen.
I like Jared Allen. Karis, I'm always kind of iffy on because he always starts seasons good and then tapers off as it goes along. But so far, he's been doing great. Speaking of Karis, this game he had 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 turnovers on 5 of 12 shooting in a team-high 31 minutes.
As he should.
Yeah, he always seems to play the most minutes. He played the most minutes in the Pelicans game, too. He didn't attempt a single free throw in this game, which is weird to see considering he had such high free throw totals in the previous games. And that's where he had been getting a lot of his points from, so it makes sense that he only scored 10. And he also didn't – his hyper-efficiency streak ended as he didn't go 8 of 9. He went 5 for 12 in this game. And on to D'Lo. You can explain this one.
So he had the best game out of anyone on the team at 18 points, 8 assists, 1 rebound, 1 turnover, 5 of 14 shooting. He's never going to shoot well in a game all season, I'm convinced.
He shot well in the Pelicans game, but he managed to ruin it. So.
Okay, so he probably had the best game in this one. There's a couple of people you could argue as the MVP of the game, like Joe Harris or Karis LeVert, but D'Lo had the best statistical game outside of efficiency. And moving on to Rondé Hollis Jefferson and Shabazz Napier, who both made their debuts in this game. They both came off the bench. Rondé Hollis played 21 minutes, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 1 steal, 3 of 10 shooting. You usually are inefficient in your first game back, so
but it's good
normal.
to see he even put up 10 shots.
And Jared Dudley's going to take the hit when Rondé Hollis is fully healthy in 2 to 3 games probably. It was Dudley's best game of the season with 12 points, 4 threes coming right out of the gate in the third quarter. And Shabazz Napier had 8 points and 1 assist in 14 minutes. He's going to take some minutes away from all of the guards, a couple minutes away from all of them. He might be the point guard in the bench unit and Dinwiddie be the two, but they mainly have four guards that are going to rotate ball handling duties in D'Lo, LeVert, Dinwiddie, and Shabazz. So we'll see how their rotation shakes out once everyone's healthy.
The way I see it working is, so Karis LeVert seems to have the most secure position as the two guard, and then D'Lo and Spencer Dinwiddie kind of alternate back and forth between who Kenny Atkinson bases who he plays more on, who has the better game. Yeah. So I feel like whoever's having the worst game, Shabazz Napier is going to eat into their minutes. And this game, D'Lo was having the better game, so he ate into Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes. For me, personally, I was happy that the Nets beat or managed to beat the Cavs because it showed that they're not at the bottom of the league. Like, had they kept it close with the Cavs the whole game, then it would have been disappointing, even if they won. Because it's like, you need to, as a franchise trying to sign big-time free agents next year, you need to show and differentiate yourself from a dumpster fire team like the Cavs. And in this game, they asserted their dominance and destroyed the Cavs as they should have. Now we're going to move on to the heartbreaker that was the Nets versus Pelicans Friday night. So the Nets lost 115 to 117 on the road to the undefeated Pelicans. They were 3-0 at the time. They should have been 3-1. Now they're 4-0, and they look like one of the best teams in the NBA. This was one of the games the Nets needed to win. This was one the Nets needed to win because they play the Warriors next, and that's 99% a loss. So they'll probably be on a 2-game losing streak when they could have been on a 1-1. When they could have been 1-1 in these 2 games. So
no, they could have been 2-0.
Oh yeah, they could have been 2-0. So once again, the Nets lose the turnover battle. Not a surprise. And at this point, it's pretty easy to say that turnovers is their greatest problem. They lost at 18-11. They currently lead the NBA in turnovers as a team with 19.2, which is 1.2 turnovers more than the second highest team, the Phoenix Suns. And it's like, yes, when it comes to turnovers, it's because they're a young team, but like still, it's not like how many rookies do they have on the roster? It's not like that's the biggest excuse they can use. They're all like third and fourth year players, so they should be able to not average more. Like the most free throws, the most turnovers in the league is wild.
And for a team that has Westbrook or Harden, like the Thunder and Rockets, to average less turnovers than the Nets is a problem because Harden and Westbrook turn the ball over a tremendous amount.
Even Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid turn it over an insane amount.
But then you have this team with D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert, and Spencer Dinwiddie averaging 19 turnovers a game, 10 to 12 of which are by the three of them.
Literally, every time. In this game, D'Lo had 5 alone. The Nets play the Suns on November 6th, so that should be interesting. It's going to be an extremely sloppy game with both of them averaging 18 or more turnovers per game. The Nets got blocked 11 times, but at least they won the rebound battle 54-46. They hung in there with the Pelicans all game, too. They shot 43.9% from the field, 47.5% from the three-point line, and 66.7% from the free throw line.
So the threes are picking up as expected, even though Alan Crabb had possibly the most horrendous game I've ever seen in my life at 0 of 7 shooting, 0 points.
I'm still giving him slack because he's coming back from his injury. I think this is his 3rd game back, 4th game back, one of them. After a month, if he's still this bad, then it'll be a problem. They actually made 10 more threes than the Pelicans because they made 19. The Pelicans only made 9. But then in that same breath, they attempted 40 compared to the Pelicans' 23. Onto the box score, Jared Dudley played 22 minutes compared to Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's 16, and he's still getting adjusted. But I understand Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's still getting adjusted back to playing NBA basketball. But there's no way Jared Dudley should be playing more minutes than him, no matter what. Like I say, 50% Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is better than 100% Jared Dudley.
Obviously.
So why does Kenny Atkinson continue to play Jared Dudley?
Because they don't want to risk him getting hurt even more.
I mean, then you should have held him out till he was 100% and bring him back full speed. But Jared Allen had 7 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks before absolutely getting destroyed. If everyone has at least seen Because everyone was so hype when Jared Allen was blocking Blake Griffin. But now he got baptized by Anthony Davis. They even hung the poster in their locker room, which is wild. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pelicans hung Anthony Davis.
The alert from Bleacher Report literally said, in all caps, Anthony Davis baptizes Jared Allen with a freeze frame of the dunk.
I wonder if stuff like that hurts players' egos, especially someone like Jared Allen, who's like
I mean,
known
he already
to be
had
blocking
his
people.
worst game of the season.
Yeah, it wasn't a good night for Jared Allen. Karis LeVert bounced back with 21 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists on 8 of 23 shooting, and once again a team high 31 minutes.
Well, I mean, he took 23 shots to get 21 points, so
Yeah, that efficiency really isn't holding steady. He only got to the line 5 times and went 1 of 6 from behind the arc. So that amazing field goal percentage we were seeing in the first couple games is, like I said, no more.
the last 2 games he's 13 for 35 shooting. That's like 36%. That is awful.
D'Lo, a team high 24 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He hit 6 triples and finally shot efficiently 9 of 16 from the field. This was his best shooting performance the whole season. However,
Let's get to this part. So he had 5 turnovers. He makes a lot of bonehead plays. He does not know what the right play and the wrong play is. There's 7 seconds left.
wait. I don't want to get into it yet.
No.
We're gonna get into it.
So you want to do Shabazz Napier first?
Yeah, just let me finish the box score. Shabazz Napier, he made the most of his time. He had 15 minutes, scored 16 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, and a steal. They gave up 5 blocks and 4 steals to AD alone, but they held him to 6 of 19 shooting, which is why I say they played pretty good defense. However, the guards' defense is still a problem. D'Lo and Karis LeVert, all of their guards, can't play any defense. They get lit up by any good guard that the Nets play. If you play fantasy basketball, any guard playing the Nets, start them. Because Drew Holiday destroyed them, put up 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists, and he's the one that put the dagger into the Nets with 3 seconds left. So now, tell everybody about what happened.
So your franchise point guard gets the ball with 7.5 seconds on the clock.
And the Pelicans weren't fouling.
They
trusted the Nets to be garbage. That's crazy.
They were trying to trap, and if it didn't work, then they would foul. So all you have to do is hold the ball down
and get fouled.
Hug the ball and get fouled. Because there's no jump ball. If someone's around your back grabbing the ball, they're going to call a foul. So what D'Angelo Russell sees is Karis LeVert open to his right side. So instead of shifting his vision to the right side of the court and taking a one-step chest pass to the right side to Karis LeVert, he looks to the basket.
He looked in the paint. He looked in the paint.
Straight and throws a pass to his right. No look pass.
Sails
and what
clean
happens?
Out of bounds.
Karis LeVert takes 3 steps back, unexpected, and it goes straight out of bounds.
Like, that's what I'm talking. There's no communication. And, like, I don't expect you to be like, hey, Karis, I'll pass you the ball. But, like, why are you making no-look passes?
There's 7 seconds left.
You're
look
making
at him.
no-look passes.
You look at him. Even if Karis gets a ball, he's good at free throws, so he's going to make 1 or 2.
At least 1.
And it would go to overtime at the very least to, like, instead, another loss because D'Angelo Russell does not know how to take care of the ball.
And then it's like, as soon as they do the turnover, it's like everyone in the arena knew it was over. And it was in the Pelicans arena, so they were happy. Karis sat like, that was so demoralizing to see your one of your best players just sit on the floor before going back on defense. Like, he had his head to the hardwood because he knew it was over. They had no like, the Pelicans didn't even have any timeouts. Drew just straight up got the inbound, ran up the court, took a foul line, pull up, cash. The Nets call a timeout, and then, as if things couldn't get any worse, Solomon Hill comes up to Ed Davis. Well, he comes up to the huddle, and Ed Davis shoves him away from the Nets bench. Ed Davis definitely flopped. He gets a tech, gives Drew Holiday a free throw, which he of course sinks, and now the Nets are down 2. And then after the game, Solomon Hill said that he was just learning from Jared Dudley and was trying to look at the Nets play. Like, he definitely flopped. It's not even a question. I wouldn't be surprised if he got fined like Joel Embiid. But if you're Ed Davis and like you're not a young like Ed Davis is one of their veterans, you've got to know not to engage in something like that with the game on the line. But then again, like when I looked at the replay, why are opposing players just allowed to walk into the huddle? Like like if you're the Nets, what are you supposed to do? Just let them hear your play? Like I blame him, but like it's a tough position. I feel like the refs should have done a better done a better job of keeping them away, because like what are you supposed to do if you're playing a basketball game and the opponent just walks up to your huddle? You're supposed to just let them hear what you're talking about.
Just stop talking.
But you still have to get your point across.
Point him over. Call the refs.
They don't have time for all that. When the timeout's over, the timeout's over. If you don't get what you're trying to say across, it's over.
I mean, yeah, it's the ref's fault more than anybody, but Ed Davis still shoved him.
I know, but it was a flop. It was a big flop. And then after the game, D'Lo said it was all his fault that they lost the game. Was it all his fault? I don't know if I can say it was all his fault.
I don't care what he did before that. He did that. That ended the game.
The thing with me is they would have gotten blown out.
And he already lost 5 possessions for them throughout the game.
They would have gotten blown out had he not played as well as he did.
I don't think that's true. Because if you take away his minutes and then you give Shabazz Napier, who was lighting them up the whole
Napier
time,
is not as good as D'Angelo
or
Russell.
if you give Dinwiddie more minutes or LeVert more minutes,
Dinwiddie played horrible.
I think they make
Caris
up those
LeVert
stats.
went 8 of 23.
They will make up those stats with ease.
No, they wouldn't. I just feel like is it mostly his fault? Sure, I'll put 80% of the blame on him, but not 100%.
Sure, 20% on Jared Dudley's lack of stats there.
Fine.
There.
I just don't think it's all his fault. And now, and after the game, something interesting is that Drew Holiday said he saw the Nets had an iPad to draw up plays instead of the whiteboard that Alvin Gentry used. I personally didn't even know that they use iPads in the NBA to draw up plays. That's crazy to think about. But on to the Brooklyn Baller of the Week.
This is a segment where we've done it in the episodes that we recorded before.
Yeah, we've already handed one out, but you guys didn't hear it.
At the end of each week, it will be 2 to 3 games in a week probably when we do this. And it's the player who performed the best that week. And then we're going to count how many each player has and give a Brooklyn Baller of the mid-season for around the All-Star game and Brooklyn Baller of the season.
Yeah, Brooklyn Baller of the Year. And this last week, it was Caris LeVert because, of course, he came out the gate swinging. So he already has one. But you guys did get to hear that, as Hunter said. So this week...
Okay, so we were conflicted on who
we still are conflicted, but I took the L and gave it to Hunter's choice.
Because D'Angelo Russell did average 21 points in the 2 games, but he also had a lot of turnovers. Combined, didn't shoot efficiently. His stats were okay. The only thing he did well was hit threes. He turned the ball over a lot, obviously, and lost them the second game of the week.
But he's also going to win them so many more games. I don't even know if I can say that.
Yeah, I really don't know.
I don't even know if I can say that.
So, although his stats in the second game, where he had 7 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists, was a lackluster game, the big baller of the week, the Brooklyn Baller.
We got LeVar Ball, the big baller of the week. The Brooklyn Baller of the week is who? Tell them who Hunter fought tooth and nail with me about to make the Brooklyn Baller of the week.
The Brooklyn Baller of the week is Joe Harris.
Joe Harris is our Brooklyn Baller of the week.
He had 16, 6-2 in the win over the Cavs and 7, 6-2 in the loss to the Pelicans. He held Cedi Osman to 4 of 12.
Yeah, Cedi Osman, because that's a big job to
Cedi Osman broke out last week for the Cavs and had some stellar performances. Joe Harris,
but we're talking about Cedi Osman, not LeBron James.
And Joe Harris also played solid defense on Etuan Moore, who had...
We're talking about Cedi Osman and Etuan Moore.
I mean, when you have everyone else on the court getting lit up by everybody...
It makes him look even better,
such as Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson
lighting
up.
They had 14!
but they also had the best games on the Cavs.
But that doesn't mean that they're a good
Joe
game.
Harris locked him up in such a way he was not even on the statistical
Oh
radar.
my goodness.
So, stats-wise, sure, D'Angelo Russell, but it's because he has the biggest volume, the highest usage. He has the ball in his hands the most.
I'm not worried because I know D'Lo will get at least. All right, over under. D'Lo gets 6 Brooklyn Ballers of the week,
I was gonna say 5, so under.
and I'll go over.
You think he has 8 or so weeks with
Yes.
Brooklyn Baller of the week?
Yes.
That is 2 months worth of Brooklyn
Okay.
Ballers.
Okay, I say he at least gets. I say he at least gets 7. I say he at least gets 7, and you say 5.
I will almost guarantee that Karis LeVert ends with more.
Do I want to make this bet? Karis LeVert ends with more Brooklyn Ballers of the week than D'Angelo Russell.
He will.
Can we do barring injury? Barring an injury that keeps one of them out at least 15 games. They
10
both
games.
at least have to play 60 games.
65.
Okay, they both at least have to play 65.
Okay.
And I say D'Angelo has more broken balls of the week than Karis LeVert.
That's not happening. It could be D'Lo plays 82 games and Karis LeVert plays 65 and he still ends with
Okay, you want to make that bet?
I mean, that's a hypothetical. That
Yeah,
LeVert misses
exactly.
17
Okay,
games.
so the bet is on the board. I say D'Lo has more Brooklyn balls of the week. He says Karis LeVert does. We'll figure out the punishment somewhere along the season, but this is not going to be forgotten. Now, moving on.
Jared Allen is a quiet sleeper for more Brooklyn Ballers of the week than D'Lo, by the way, as well.
I'd be willing to double down. Double down.
So you let me get both of them individually?
Okay, that's like taking the field, because who else is getting one?
Rondé Hollis,
Not a chance.
another Joe Harris.
Not a
on the way.
chance. Joe Harris shouldn't even have got this one, but I let you have it. Now, okay, I'll give you. Okay, let me take another player on the Nets with D'Lo and Karis LeVert. I say,
No, I got Allen and
okay,
Karis LeVert.
yeah. I have D'Lo. You have Karis LeVert. I
You're
say,
gonna get Dinwiddie.
I say Spencer Dinwiddie has more. That's setting myself up for failure. No, I'm not making this bet. I know when to pick and choose my battles. We're keeping it to D'Lo and Karis LeVert because the Nets don't have a 4th best player. So I'm not betting Joe Harris and Jared Allen. So that's a no. But moving on, looking ahead, the Nets play the Warriors in their next matchup. What do you think is gonna? What do you think they pull away with a win? They're 2-3 right now.
If I had to guess, I would say that the Nets lose by approximately 37 points. And Steph Curry has a nice...
He had 51 and 3
I
quarters.
give him...
Who were they playing when he had 51?
The Wizards.
Oh, God.
I give him...
Oh, he's going to light the Nets up.
I give him 53 points if the game is within reach. If it's not, I say that he gets 44 and 3 quarters and then sits the whole fourth.
Who? Okay, this is a sidebar, but if you had to pick an MVP right now, who would it be? Steph?
Yes.
Yeah, it would easily be Steph. And that's crazy.
So I said my favorite athlete of all time was Paul Pierce, but my favorite athlete today is Steph Curry, by the way. His is D'Angelo Russell.
That's crazy because mine is D'Lo. It's D'Lo and Brandon Ingram.
And Steph Curry is winning his 3rd MVP this season.
If only Steph Curry was on the Nets. Now, do we think... And we obviously don't think the Nets are going to beat the Warriors. So it's going to be a hard one for them to win.
At this point, the Nets could be 4-1.
They could be. And the crazy thing is, after they play the Warriors, they play the Knicks again, and then they play the Nets. And then the Nets play the Nets. They play the Nets. They play the Knicks, and then they play the Pistons.
So
Two teams they've already played.
And then they play a struggling Rockets team,
A struggling Sixers team, a struggling
Nets.
Suns team.
Yeah,
The Nets. The Nets. See?
and then they play the Nuggets. So that's going to be a loss.
So looking at the Nets
next.
for next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, they play the Warriors, the Knicks, the Pistons, the Rockets, the Sixers, and the Suns. I'm saying they lose to the Warriors.
And they lose to the Sixers.
I say they beat the Knicks, beat the Pistons, pull one out against the Rockets. That would make them be on a 3-game win streak.
They lose to the Sixers and beat the Suns.
Yeah,
I give
they'll
them
lose to the
4
Sixers
and
and beat
2.
the Suns. They would be what, 6-4,
6 and 5.
6-5. That's good enough.
And
like,
even if they lose to the Rockets, they'll be 5 and 6, which I'm okay with right now. At that point in the season, being 5 and 6.
me too. But that's all for this.
Wait, no, I'm not done.
Wow, cut me off.
5
Go
and
ahead.
6,
I'm sorry.
staying at that pace would make them a borderline 8th seed in a weak East, because the East has a lot of teams that are going to finish around 500.
We've gone over whether or not the Nets can make the playoffs so many times, but not since the podcast has debuted. So
Look, the guarantees are the Raptors, the Bucks, the Pacers, the Celtics.
the Pistons are undefeated. So are the Bucks, and the Raptors are 6-0. Jeez.
Yes, and those are really the only locks.
The Hawks are not making the playoffs.
Because the Wizards have shown that they are no longer a
The
good
Wizards
team.
are wait, no, they're second to last. And
Third to last.
Yeah, they're third to last.
So
in the, East
the
right
people
now.
who for sure are not making it
the Hawks
are
done.
the Hawks, the Bulls,
The Magic.
the Knicks, and the Cavs.
and
So
the Wizards. They're not making the playoffs.
they can go on a slight tear, but that's 5 teams.
But
So
the locks,
that leaves the Nets as a top 10 possibility, and they'll have to fight with the Hornets, the Pistons, the Wizards for the 7th and 8th seed.
I remember the Pistons started off hot. No, the Magic started off hot last year. And
Yeah.
then completely
That
went
could,
down.
that's going to
That
be
could
the
be the
Pistons this year.
Yeah, the Magic
Somebody
started off hot
like
last
Reggie
year.
Jackson is likely to get injured. Like, they usually lose somebody to an injury, and then their whole team will just crumble, and they're going to start losing games.
So, do we think the Nets make the playoffs? Yeah. Yes or no?
I really think
if you had to plant your flag and stand by it right now.
No,
do the
I
Nets
say
make
at this
the playoffs?
point, yes, 7th seed. I say yes, 7th
I say
or
they
8th
don't.
seed.
I say the Nets don't make the playoffs. Not this year.
I just think once everyone's healthy, including Damari Carroll, they're going to beat some.
They're going to go on a
teams.
couple good streaks.
Because they have so many capable basketball players on the team. D'Angelo Russell just needs to learn how to not make mistakes. 10 to 20 plays a game where he just makes the wrong choice. That's the difference between him and an all-star. Someone like Donovan Mitchell, who's had less experience than him, knows in those 10 to 20 plays what the right choice is. And that's why his team is in the playoffs.
His team is also definitely better than the Nets, but I get what you're saying. Are we done now?
Yes.
Okay. That's going to do it for this episode, guys. Thank you for listening to our debut episode. Of course, subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave a comment. Leave a review. 5 stars, please. If you want to follow us on Twitter, like we said before, Hoopball Nets. Individually, I'm at Najee Adams _ on Twitter, NAJEE Adams. Hunter is at Hunter _ JKR on Twitter. And yeah, once again, thank y'all for listening. We'll see you next episode.